Strange science. Long ago, people thought living things could come from non-living things. People saw worms in the soil after a rainstorm. They thought the worms came from water and dirt. This idea may seem laughable today, yet it made sense to people who lived long ago. Some scientists did not believe ideas like these, so they did experiments. Francesco Redi was one of these scientists. In 1668, he tested the idea that flies come from meat. When meat was left out, worm-like creatures called maggots appeared. Soon they turned into flies. Redi did not believe the flies came from meat. Flies come from flies. For his experiment, Redi used three jars. Redi put some meat in each one. He left one jar uncovered. He covered the second jar with netting. He covered the third jar tightly. Then he waited to see what happened. Before long, flies appeared. They laid eggs on the meat in the first jar and on the netting of the second jar, but they stayed away from the third jar. Soon Redi found lots of maggots on the meat. He found some on the netting. The covered jar had no maggots at all. In a few days, the maggots turned into flies. Redi proved that flies do not come from meat. They come from eggs laid by other flies. More to prove. 200 years passed before another scientist put this idea to rest. His name was Louis Pasteur. He wanted to prove that germs came from other germs, not from living things such as food. Germs make more germs. For his experiment, Pasteur poured soup broth into 2 glass bottles. Next, he boiled the broth to kill any germs that might be in it. Then he used heat to melt and shape the tops of the bottles. Pasteur made one top a straight open tube. He turned and twisted the other one into an S shape. If tiny living germs were in the air, Pasteur thought they could get into the bottle with the straight tube at the top, but the other bottle's curving tube would keep the germs out. Then Pasteur wanted to see what would happen. In a few weeks, he noticed something. The broth in the first bottle was cloudy, but the broth in the second bottle was clear. He used a microscope to examine broth from each bottle. In the cloudy broth, he saw living germs, but there were no germs in the clear broth. Pasteur showed that germs come from other germs. Pasteur's experiment. Before, with a straight tube. After, germs get in and the broth is cloudy. This is an experiment. Curving tube, germs stay out, clear broth. Learning from Redi and Pasteur. Redi and Pasteur were special. They questioned old ideas that most people believed. They demonstrated that living things can come only from living things. They also showed us how to plan and carry out experiments. In this way, we have learned much about our world.